Welcome to Obsession Engineering in Salt Lake City. This is not quite the video I had planned. The reason I'm here in Salt Lake City is because 2 hours down the road is Bonneville Salt Flats, the home of going as fast as possible on anything with wheels. Unfortunately, it rained a lot last week, and so at the moment you would need something without wheels and a propeller to go really fast down there because it is underwater. So I've changed my plan a little bit. I've rented a motorbike and I'm going for a ride in the countryside because the scenery over there looks pretty darned impressive. The first few miles of my journey are not terribly exciting roads because I'm sat on interstate, but the scenery is already pretty impressive. I think this might be one heck of a road trip. So I've turned off I-15, I'm now on the US 6 going east and then a bit south. This route to where I'm stopping tonight, a couple of 100 miles away, is nearly an hour longer. But look at the scenery. I've literally been off the interstate 5 minutes and I'm already in the hills and the valleys and the canyons. If I'm doing a big road trip, I either want amazing roads or amazing scenery. I've definitely got the scenery already, and if my plans have come together correctly, I will also have some epic roads. So this is shaping up well. I've ridden around Scotland a bit and the scenery is very good, but it's not like this. This is a whole nother world. And then it rained and it got colder and I thought, actually it is still a bit like Scotland. And over there I can see blue skies. I should be dry again in the blink of an eye. There was a flashy warning sign about a mile away that flashed for cattle, and I assume it meant for the cattle grid that was next to the sign. But no, it's actually for the cattle that are crossing the road. They appear to have their own traffic light system. Very well thought out. Hello. Every now and again you have to pull over and look at stuff like that. That view is amazing. Right, back on the road. So I'm in a town called Bicknell and I'm at my relatively cheap motel for the night. And I have to admit, I didn't really know what the scenery in Utah was going to be like. And it has been absolutely stunning. So I am very, very pleased that I have taken my alternative to being grumpy and not riding around on the salt by getting a bike and going exploring, because this place has been spectacular. So I'm going to grab a shower, I'm going to go down to the curry house down the road and carry on tomorrow. Good morning! Day 2 of my impromptu American road trip. Last night, in the all-American flavour, I had curry pizza for dinner, which was unusual but surprisingly good. So if you're in Bicknell, where I stayed last night, curry pizza is actually pretty good. But today, we start with a bit of a run through another one of the national parks. You often have the choice on a road trip. Do you take the straightest, fastest route, or do you take the scenic route? Today, and in general on this trip, I am taking the scenic route, and I am really pleased I have, because some of the scenery around here is just absolutely stunning. One of the other roles of road tripping is you keep going. Not on this trip. This was a scenic overlook and I had to stop and have a look because the road is so twisty and so much fun that I was looking at the road and then every now and again I glance at the scenery. So it's been quite nice to just take this opportunity to stop and actually look at the scenery and then go and enjoy the road. It's unusual to find a road that good with scenery this good. The 12 South in Utah is one of those roads. The scenery has changed again. We're now into what I presume is sandstone or something similar, and we're going back up the valley, and the road surface is good. And from what I can tell, there's not really any police, which means the speed limits are merely advisory. Obviously, cattle and the fact the Honda isn't very fast actually limit speed. But yeah, this place is cool to come and ride motorbikes. Excellent. These corners are a 25-mile-an-hour advisory. I suspect they're lying. They are lying. It just means that they're fun. Hell's Backbone. Sounds inviting. So I've stopped up here on the Hog's Back, right at the top, and I noticed a few people have done it, so I've had to brand the sign up so that we're spreading the Obsession Engineering word. And this is it. This is the top of the Hog's Back, and apparently the Devil's Backbone, or whatever it is that I rode past a few minutes ago, is even twistier than this road, but isn't quite as scenic, because this place is just absolutely stunning. You can see all the way over there. In the absolute far distance you can see the Henry Mountains, and apparently, I've had a history lesson off Dustin there who was on the Harley, apparently all of this used to be underwater, and on the hills right in the foreground you can just about make out the sort of the tide lines where the water used to sit. So I'm guessing this is quite a long time ago, and this apparently was Lake Bonneville. So there you go, that is your geography lesson for the day. I better put my kit back on, jump back on the Africa Twin, cruise some more miles. I've done a lot of motorbiking in my time, but I will admit to being a bit nervous, a bit apprehensive before I set off on this trip. I haven't done extensive research. I've done some basic route planning with Google Maps, but it is a little bit going into the unknown. But part of the reason for picking a Honda is the chances are it's going to keep going. And even though I'm on quite open, quite empty roads, every time you stop there is pretty much some motorbikes here, because this is motorbiking territory. And so if you broke down or anything happened, there is actually going to be somebody around in the next few minutes anyway, and that sort of just takes the edge off the nerves. You can just sit down, relax, not really worry about anything, and just enjoy the road and the scenery. I'm now 86, nearly 87 miles into the 12 road, and you get to the top of hills and you think, well, it's got to end soon, and then you look out over that and go, no, it doesn't end anytime soon. It just keeps going for what feels like forever, and it is really, really cool. Back home we have great scenery, but we don't have scenery that keeps going for this long to this level. This is it. They might do some stuff bigger in America, but the scenery, having that bigger, is a good thing. That does look like something from Star Wars, if I'm honest. I think that's very, very cool. And I'm guessing one day all of it will fall down. But I'm kind of hoping it's in thousands of years. I can't imagine it will fall down in my lifetime, but one day I'm guessing it will do. Now we even get tunnels! This road really has got everything. How cool! Don't get me wrong, if I had the choice I would be trying to go 200 miles an hour on salt at Bonneville, but this is a pretty good alternative. Not sure the Africa Twin's going to muster 200 mile an hour anytime soon though. There's people dressed as cowboys riding horses. I mean, I'm assuming it's a bit of a touristy thing, but still, to be stuck in traffic because of cowboys, part of me thinks that's quite cool. The rest of me thinks that I'm really quite warm in the sunshine and I'd like to get going. Woo! They've got a music festival on today, and I bet they play both kinds of music, country and western. Sneak past the horses as quietly as we can. I've changed roads again. I was on the 89 and now I'm on the imaginatively titled 89A. And basically the 89 is the straighter route to where I want to go, and in theory the 89A cuts the corner off a triangle, except it's going to be at some point quite a twisty road according to the Google Maps. At the moment it's not terribly twisty, but I can see for absolutely flipping miles. If that doesn't shout American road trip, nothing does. I might have done a few miles of very straight roads to get up here, but now I'm up in these hills in Arizona down towards the Grand Canyon. This road is pretty cool. The surface is good, there is basically no traffic, and there's loads and loads of just long, sweeping, lovely corners. America can actually do corners. It's a revelation. I tell you what, we ought to close these roads and go road racing. It'd be epic around here. Imagine how fast this would be. It'd be brilliant. And there's barely any traffic to have to annoy. This is it. If you're American, listen to me. We should go road racing here. This would be epic. You just have to sort out the graty bit that you put in the middle of the road to stop people wandering over the middle, because that would get a bit exciting. But other than that, the place is basically set up already. Look, you've even got runoff. This is it. The job is sorted. Sometimes having a straight road is okay because it gives you more time to stare at the scenery. And it's really quite humbling because one day all of that will erode to just dust and rock at the bottom of this valley. But it's going to take, I don't know, tens of thousands if not millions of years, which makes us and our 80, 90, 100 years if we're lucky seem pretty insignificant. It also makes us seem very, very small in comparison to all of this. I think that's maybe why I like it. Doesn't matter what stress you have, this sort of puts some perspective on it. Down there is the Colorado River, the one that cuts through the Grand Canyon, and I believe also the one that fills up the Hoover Dam. So I've just rejoined the 89, not the 89A, and this piece of road I've actually been on before, because a few years ago we came over and did Pikes Peak, Eric Road. I fixed his bike when he crashed it. It's almost the standard system with us too. And then we rode across the rest of America, and we actually rode down this road into the town of Flagstaff, and part of this road is actually some of the old Route 66. And I just got onto this road, and then the wind whipped round the outside of all of this rock formation here and blew me nearly onto the shoulder over there, which was exciting to say the least. So obviously the way to fix this is to add momentum for forward so the wind can't affect you as much. That definitely sounds like the best thing to do. Back on that old road trip in 2019, I remember coming down this road at about 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, and the sun was setting, and you get spectacular sunrises and sunsets in the desert. And the sun was setting and it was very red, and it was beating straight onto these rock formations, which are also very red. And I've obviously never been to Mars, but in my head that was what Mars would look like, would be red rocks and these red sunsets, and that was my biggest single memory of that road trip, was this landscape in the setting sun. And so I don't mind repeating that bit of the journey today. It is a little bit earlier in the afternoon, so we're not going to quite get the setting sun on it, but trust me, if you get to see this at sunset, it might well blow your mind. This is pretty cool. It's another great piece of road without traffic and epic scenery. We're doing well at this today. The joys of the internet. It has given me the things I was looking for. And some of the roads I want to ride on. Ooh, we get a bridge as well. I do like a bridge. Admittedly, this isn't the most exciting one, but still, it's better than not having a bridge. Look at that. Big sticky up things, just a bit of cloud behind it. That looks really, really good. I am just winding my way through the town of Jerome, and there is a scenic viewpoint in a minute. This town has a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and to be fair, that's actually pretty accurate because there's so many hairpins in this town you'd struggle to go any quicker anyway. So the sat-nav says to get down 23 miles of this incredibly twisty canyon road is going to take me 38 minutes. I like a challenge. Let's go. And we're not going to go reckless because I can't see round any of the corners. And it's double lines in the road, so I can't cross the road to give myself a better view. My V4 Tuono would be awesome at this. This reminds me a bit of the San Pedro hill climb in Baja, Mexico. That's in a few weeks' time. Unfortunately, I can't make it this year because I've spent all the time I had spare coming here. I can completely see why this was on my list of great motorbiking roads, because this is a great road. 12 hours on the road today, but when I started off I wanted either great roads or great scenery, and in the end I got loads of both. So it has been a tip-top day, a bit over 400 miles because I wasn't rushing anywhere, and I'm in the middle of Arizona, so I think it's time for me to go and get a shower because I'm a little bit crusty, get my head down, smash the last few miles tomorrow. Welcome to day 3 on the road. I could have gone the straight route that went Phoenix, Tucson and straight to where I'm going, but I decided that that would just be boring. So I've been on the internet and I've found some more interesting roads, and the first one is on my sat-nav. I'm fully aware that the camera doesn't really pick up the majesty of that view. I can see for absolutely miles across the Verde Valley. That is a view to wake you up in the morning. This is a junction I need to not forget. Yep, this is turning into another good day of riding. Arizona's alright. Wouldn't mind if they turn the temperature down a couple of degrees though, it is quite warm already. Watch for elk! I've never seen that written on a road sign before. I think this is the town of Strawberry, which sounds lovely. Right, we can do a bit of a review of the Honda now that I've done 850 miles on it. We will start with it's been very well maintained. Jeremy, who I rented it off, has done a lovely job of looking after it. It's thoroughly well serviced. It had a new chain and sprockets before I picked up. The tyres are in good condition. So top marks to Jeremy. Top renter. He has prepared this bike perfectly. If I'm honest, I probably should have done a little bit more research on what I was going to rent. I've ridden halfway across America before on a Harley Davidson Road King, which you would think from the title would be King of the Road. They're not very good. Pretty much every Harley I've ever ridden has been not very good. And that's because they still believe it's the 1950s. So everything's made of pig iron and the engines have push rods and air cooling, so they make no power. This on the other hand is modern and Japanese in design, so has some massive advantages. I have no qualms at all over whether it'll start. The big advantage to having these big adventure bike things is you're sat much higher up, and that's a good thing because you get a much better view of not only the scenery but past cars and round corners, and it's just a better riding position. The actual ergonomics of this thing are nearly perfect for covering a load of miles. The screen is Like, it doesn't look massive, but I'm getting no buffeting off it. It's getting the wind right off my head, and for wind protection it's actually really, really good. The only downside to that is I'm getting almost no ventilation through my helmet because it's doing such a good job. So every now and again I do have to stand up and get some ventilation round my head and round my armpits. It's quite high for me, and I'm 6'1". If you're short, this bike is not going to work for you. Ooh, that's Roosevelt Dam then, I assume. I like a bridge in a dam. Yes, that's quite funky, that is. Right, back to the road ahead, because there's a corner coming up. And that brings us on to what this thing goes around corners like. And the answer is, not that well. I was kind of expecting it to be a bit more Fireblade and a bit less Fireplace. There are certain issues with it. It has like a gravel based tyre and a big front wheel, which I'm assuming if you take it off road would be excellent at going over the bumps and in the ruts and stuff like that. On road, the front tyre isn't very confidence inspiring, and you pretty much can't lean it over because you basically run out of tyre. The suspension is very soft, again, for if you're riding it off-road on graded roads and gravel and stuff. I'm sure the suspension is really quite good. Me riding it on tarmac, it's a bit soft and a bit bouncy and wallowy, but when you do go over rough bits of road, it is excellent. The front brake, you can pull it as hard as you like, and basically that just makes the forks collapse. Doesn't slow you down especially well. Again, I'm guessing they've done this for if you're riding it on dirt. I'm not. I'd like it to stop more, but then you'd probably overwhelm the front tyre. The back brake is very good, which is useful because the bike is quite heavy and sometimes you need to slow down. And that brings me on to one of the biggest factors with this bike. It's heavy. Picking it off its side stand, it's got a lot of weight to it, and at low speed it balances nicely, but you can't get away from the fact it is a big lump and it's fairly tall. Once you're moving, it turns quite easily and stuff, but because it's so heavy, that's part of the reason it doesn't stop particularly well. It's a bit slow accelerating because it's so heavy. It's hard work getting it round corners because it's heavy. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing against this bike really, in its general dynamicness. Dynamicism, is that a real word? Is the weight. This one has Honda's factory fitted heated grips, which I have used and work very well. The only thing I don't like is that the handlebar grips are actually made of stone. I've never come across handlebar grips that are so hard, and now that I'm 850 miles in, it's beginning to feel it on my hands. So handlebar grips, they're too hard and you do have to hold them open. Cruise control would have been definitely an advantage on this thing. So that's it. If you want a bike that's heavy and not very good on the road, buy an Africa Twin. It's still better than a Harley. We're at 999.9, 1,000 miles into the trip, 84 miles to go to my destination. Right, under 10 miles now to go, which means I've into the last % of my ride, and I nearly just ran over a roadrunner, like off the cartoon. I was expecting a coyote chasing it, but there wasn't one.
So I've reached my destination in southern Arizona, and it's fair to say this place is a little unusual. Now my friend who I've come to see is quite a character, and I didn't expect him to live in a normal place, but I wasn't expecting it to be quite this different. But he's out at the moment, so let's go and have a look around his neighbourhood. So I pulled up and parked the Honda in front of the petrol pumps, but it's fair to say they are a little bit dated because we're in Lowell in Arizona. which isn't really a town anymore, it's more just a street. And to say it's a little out of date would be an understatement as well. This place is a throwback to the 1950s to 70s Americana, and it's pretty cool. So Lowell is an odd place, and basically it's almost like a living museum now. But some of the businesses are still open, some of the houses are still lived in, but this is the only street that's left. And there is a reason for that, and the reason is behind you. In the late 1800s they found copper here, and so they built the town of Lowell basically to supply workforce for the copper mine. But then the copper mine kept getting bigger and bigger, and eventually they opened the open cast mine that's behind us, and it's a very big hole in the ground, and they actually needed the space that Lowell was built on. So they knocked down or relocated almost all of the town to the local bit that is now Bisbee. But they left this street, so this is Erie Street, and it is the only bit of Lowell that's actually left standing. And so a bunch of enthusiasts, shall we say, have taken it upon themselves to try and actually keep it looking like a 1950s to 70s sort of style bit of Americana. So it is occasionally used for films, TVs, festivals, but really it's just a tourist spot, and it's really interesting. The man I've come to all the way to Lovell in the south of Arizona to come and see is Jay Allen. And regular viewers will recognise Jay from some of our TT videos because Jay is an avid TT fan, but he is also a 55-time land speed record holder and has ridden at just shy of 230 mile an hour at Bonneville.
I'm glad to share this with you and everybody out there in your world.
So you live in this cute little street in Lowell, and you have quite the collection of toys here.
Absolutely. And people, how did you get this much? I have no clue. I guess just one bike at a time. It's nuts. It really is.
Cool. So that you can chill for a minute, I'm going to have a little bit of a look around your collection and show some of the people some of the rarities.
Please do. Make yourself at home.
Right, one of the bikes in the collection tucked at the front of the garage is a dedication to the Space Force. Navy, Army, Space Force, Air Force and US Coast Guard. Jay has a bike basically dedicated to each one of them, and he takes them around the veteran centres all around the country. It gives the veterans something to get really excited about, and he says it brings a real positivity to what he's doing. So he's got these, and his race bikes, his land speed bikes, are also liveried up for the Veterans Associations. The 5 veterans bikes as well led out a ride out of over 500,000 bikes at one point. With Jay, it's not just about collecting bikes and cars and bits. Jay, for 25 years, ran the Broken Spoke Saloon, which had locations in 5 of the big biker meetup points in America, and basically Jay ran the biggest biker bars in the world.
Yes, absolutely. When they all gather, you're talking sometimes up to 500,000, 1 million bikers ascend to have this big party to celebrate another year at that event.
I'm guessing you sold quite a lot of beer.
Oh, and T-shirts and beer, and I worked with the best people in the world. Really, truly, they're just the finest.
That's cool. Right, let's have a look at some more of the collection.
Let's do it.
Bonneville 2002, on a scooter. I don't know what it is. It's cool. I really like this, a little Honda Trial 90, so it's basically like a Dax but with slightly bigger wheels and bits in it. El Camino, big block, matching engine and frame numbers. That is very cool if you like your big Americana. Right, US Army liveried up Harley, and one of the things I really like about this is the kickstart spring is actually on the outside of the motor, and I like the detail, I like the polishing and stuff. That is a nice touch, that is. Set next to A KLR 650 sort of desert back bike thing. It's a proper chopper, full easy rider, cool as you like. I do wonder whether there's a load of cash stashed in a tank though. Joe's going to kill me for this. A pink Vespa. Why not? It's in the collection. Little Yamaha TT, and then this thing, which is, what is it again, Jay? That's a Rokon, and basically it's two-wheel drive and designed to go anywhere off-road. If you think you've got big tyres in your sports bike, look at those bad boys. A little Briggs & Stratton thing, that I'm not sure what it is, sat next to a Greg Bush V8 bike. 400 horsepower, proper V8 Americana, and one of only 5 in the world. Guzzi 850 Le Mans first edition. That is one of my favourites in it, if I'm honest. Nestled in the corner with probably the most dust in it is a 1992 Buell RSS. Jay tells me this is the only bike he's ever bought brand new, and within a couple of weeks the fuel tank had split and he couldn't get any spares and the backup was terrible, and in the end he was so fed up with it he hung it on the wall in the Broken Spoke at Sturgis and put a sign on it saying, "This bike is junk. If you want a sports bike, buy a Ducati." Just before Harley Davidson bought Buell, Willie Davison was in the bar and actually asked Jay if he could take the sign down because he didn't want the bad publicity. Jay didn't. I have had a great ride down all the way down to Lowell. It's cool to have a look around here, and Bisbee, the local town, and it's been great to catch up with Jay and look at his very varied collection. The next thing though is for me to get kitted up and start riding back to Salt Lake City.
Every biker I've spoken to in Arizona has said to ride one road, and it's this one. It's the 191 from Clifton or Crofton to Springerville, and it's 120 miles of canyony, mountainy goodness. So let's see what all the fuss is about. I've seen some riding in my time, but I've never seen anything this big, and the fact that the main road is just cutting straight through the middle of it. It's really quite the spectacle. Big is the word to describe this. Very, very big. Even on a sports bike, I wouldn't be going especially fast because the surface isn't brilliant, and there's been a few places where there's quite a lot of stones and rocks in the road, but I'll give it to the Americans. They do a lot of straight roads, but when they do a twisty road like this, they do it very, very well. 10 mile an hour hairpin. The last one of these I got to, they were right. I managed a whole 11 mile an hour to it because the surface isn't very good. Ooh, bunny wabbit. They are quite useful guides they put on these corners. I might not be doing exactly the recommended speed, but at least you've got a pretty good idea of how tight everything is. And being as it's a long way down there, we're not going to be testing the limits of adhesion. The safest and in fact fastest way of doing this as well is always slow in, fast out. So slow down before the corner, turn in, get your line right that you want, get the throttle open, and then if the surface is a bit loose or a bit broken up or there's something in the way, you're not going too fast. And with the throttle open, even if you do get a bit of a slide, you're not in big trouble. It was definitely worth coming to the 191 North. The road is epic, the scenery is spectacular. I was quite enjoying this road, and I've had to pull in and stop because the brake pads have gone an odd colour, the disc's a bit blue, and basically the back brake levers disappeared to nothing, which was exciting. So I've got to just give that a few minutes to cool down so I get a brake lever back, and then I might have to ride a little bit slower. Normally I wouldn't use much back brake, but the front brake on this is pretty much useless. I tell you what, the 191 North has not disappointed. It has been spectacular.
After several hundred basically straight miles in the heat, which has been a bit of a trudge. I've got to my next stop, and this is somewhere I very, very specifically wanted to come on the return leg. And if I turn around, it'll all make sense. Well, I've got off the bike to actually have a look around for a bit. That is Monument Valley. The real irony of coming to Monument Valley on a bike, and there is a road down there that goes round all the monuments and bits, is that because the track's rough and it's a dirt road down there, they won't be letting me around on my bike, even though I'm on an adventure bike with gravelly tyres and stuff. So all this way, the one place where an adventure bike would have been really, really good, there's no motorbikes allowed down that track, which is a little disappointing. So I've consoled myself with an ice cream and a cold drink, and a few minutes admiring this absolutely amazing view.
I'm going to put it out there, the view from the highway is actually almost as good as the view from the viewpoint. Don't get me wrong, I still think the £8 to get into the viewpoint is worth it, but even if you're just passing by in a rush, that is worth seeing. Every now and again you've just got to stop and look at stuff. And I know this won't look as good on camera, so if you ever get the chance to get on a bike and come down here and just have a look at this, study it in person, this is amazing. And it just means getting on my bike and hitting the open road is absolutely worth it. This road trip is ace. Yet another reminder that this is a big American road trip. Empty roads, big scenery, easy riding. It's not too bad, this, really. And I think I was a little bit harsh on the Honda earlier in my trip, because okay, it's a bit heavy, it's not that fast, and I don't like the front tyre because it's far too skinny. But if you get used to the fact that you're not rushing anywhere, you get the load on the back tyre, you're driving out of corners, and mostly you accept that this is dependable, smooth, great riding position, then actually it's not a bad thing. It is in fact very Honda. Oh look, a big sticky up lump of rock. You don't get that in Lincolnshire. I'm into my last few miles for the day before my overnight. The sun's setting against this rock, and I think it just looks brilliant. I'm thoroughly enjoying sat on my motorbike, cruising along. Yeah, this is a good moment, this is. I'm back on a US 6, not that far from Salt Lake City. I've got less than 100 miles to go, so I thought I would reflect a little bit on my adventure. So obviously the reason I'm riding around on this is because I couldn't ride at Bonneville because the salt was too wet. But as far as backup trips go, this has been pretty epic. I have seen some amazing scenery, ridden on some really, really good roads, and met up with some great people. So really, it's been a win, even though it started with a lose. If you're sat at home on your sofa and it's raining outside because you live in Britain, and you want to go on a big American road trip, then I can't fault you. My biggest advice would be book it now. Just start doing it. Do not put it off till tomorrow. Do not be a tomorrow man or a tomorrow woman, because before you know it, the opportunity disappears, you're dead in a box, and you're in a box for a long, long time. So do this while you can. You will only really need 3 things for your epic American road trip. You need to be in America. This is relatively easily sorted with aeroplanes. I flew in and out of New York and then did internal flights. The flights to and from New York return was less than £500 if you do a bit of shopping around, and the internal flights are a couple of £100. So it's not silly money to get yourself over here. The second thing you will require is a bike. That is quite important for your road trip, unless you want to sit down and watch it through the TV screen that is your car windscreen. So, I've rented this off Twisted Road. Now, Twisted Road is a system where you basically rent bikes off private individuals. So you kind of have to start and stop in the same place. They are considerably better value though than Eagle Rider or the other companies who allow you to pick up in one place and drop off in another place. But if you want to do that, you can do. This bike was $98 a day to rent and about $49 for the top level of insurance I can get on it. So call it $150 a day, which I don't think is too bad. Fuel wise, I've used basically $10 of fuel's been getting me about 100 miles, and by the time I finish I'll have done 2,200 miles. So it's cost me 220, maybe a little bit more in petrol. So that isn't too bad either really. Hotels, motels, whatever, budget about $100 to $120 a day for a motel or a hotel. You can spend more if you want to be in luxury while you're asleep. You can spend less. You can get a motel for about 60 bucks here. The chances are though you're not going to want to unless you're very confident that every vaccination is up to date. They are functional, they're not the comfiest of places. Food wise, it's America. Fast food and diners and stuff are prevalent. 20-30 bucks a night will get you a good feed. So that's it. We've got to America, we've rented a bike. The last thing on the list you will need is the desire to want to come here. And trust me, you should want to come here. Some places I've been, the scenery is epic. You can ride through England as much as you want, or Scotland or wherever, and there's some lovely bits. They are not Monument Valley, I promise you that. So you should come here and do it. So that is it. Those are the things you should know before coming to Road Trip America. So get yourself online, book your tickets, come and do it. And if you want to be a bit more confident on your bike, get to rapidtraining.co.uk and we'll make you the best rider you can be. Thank you for watching. I really do hope you've enjoyed yourself, even a percentage as much as I've enjoyed my road trip. So thank you for watching and join me again next time for some more motorbike fun.